Morning came gray and slow. The city still carried the silence of last night's storm. Amara sat in a quiet cafe, hands around a cup she hadn't tasted. Every door that opened made her look up. Eli arrived without hurry, coat draped over his arm, eyes calm, too calm. He didn't sit until she nodded. For a moment, they said nothing. Only the sound of rain sliding down the window between them. Eli spoke first. "The screenshots," he said softly, "they were a trap, not a confession." He leaned forward. "I've been chasing a mole inside my fund for months. I planted false data trails to see who would move them. That's what you saw." Amara wanted to believe him. Wanted that story to fill the space where her fear had grown. She looked at his phone, the files he slid across the table. Timestamps, fake credentials, decoy transfers. The evidence made sense. Too much sense. Eli's voice lowered. "Someone wants us divided. If they can break our trust, they win." Her heart twisted at the word us. It sounded less like business, more like confession. Noah's warning echoed in her mind. "You're giving him too much control." But the warmth in Eli's tone pulled her back toward something she didn't have a name for. Business lesson. Trust isn't built by proof. It's built by the part of you that wants to believe the proof. Outside, a delivery truck splashed through puddles. Inside, Eli reached across the table, fingertips brushing hers. Just long enough to remind her how dangerous closeness could be. He said, "If you want Luvara to survive, we rebuild. Together." Amara stared at the swirling coffee, cold now, and whispered, "Then let's start over." But in her chest, she knew. Starting over never really means beginning again. It means pretending the cracks aren't already there. The next weeks moved like lightning. Luvara wasn't just recovering, it was evolving. Amara and Eli worked side by side again. New strategy. New clients. Their calm had become contagious. Investors returned. Journalists followed. Every headline called it the calm revolution. A movement born from grace under pressure. Eli knew how to sell the story. Amara knew how to live it. Together, they built faster, louder, stronger. Luvara's numbers climbed, its message spread. Even competitors started imitating their tone. Noah watched quietly from the edge of meetings. Loyal, but uneasy. He saw the closeness returning, and the control shifting. Every plan Eli proposed sounded brilliant. Until Amara realized she wasn't the one making final calls anymore. Still, the success felt intoxicating. They were unstoppable, admired, envied. Even the mistakes looked like strategy. Business lesson. When you rise too fast, people don't question your clarity. They mistake speed for vision. At the end of each day, Amara would lock the office, pause to breathe, and see Eli's reflection in the glass behind her. The line between partnership and possession had never looked thinner. Spring turned to summer, and Luvara's name was everywhere. Articles, podcasts, panels. Every platform called Amara the calm disruptor. She and Eli moved like a single force. Her clarity, his strategy, a rhythm too perfect to question. When the Global Business Summit invited them to speak, it felt like the world was finally watching. The ballroom gleamed under crystal lights. Dozens of companies, hundreds of eyes. Eli opened the talk with precision. Amara followed with warmth. Together, they made growth sound like poetry. Applause followed, loud, endless. But beneath the noise, their eyes found each other. And the look said more than the words ever could. Later, the hall emptied into laughter and champagne. Amara slipped away to the terrace. A glass in her hand, the city humming below. Eli found her there, the night wind tugging gently at his tie. He said, quietly, "You don't see it, do you?" Amara smiled, tired but radiant. "See what? What you've become," he said. "The center of it all." She turned to face him. "You make it sound like a warning." He took a step closer. "Maybe it is." Silence stretched, Thick, charged, inevitable. Then, like the last move in a deal both had already agreed to, Eli leaned in. The first kiss came slow, deliberate. A meeting of willpower and surrender. The world around them blurred. The music, the laughter, the lights. Only that moment existed. Business lesson. When emotion enters negotiation, someone always pays more than they planned. When they finally pulled apart, Amara didn't look away. Neither did Eli. And from that night forward, every decision would be touched by what happened on that terrace. Success had made Luvara louder, but silence had made Noah sharper. He watched meetings turn into rehearsals. Amara and Eli finishing each other's thoughts. Plans decided before he walked into the room. Numbers changed. Budgets moved. And Eli's influence grew without discussion. Noah told himself it was business. Still, something in his gut whispered otherwise. Late nights returned. But not for building, for digging. When the office lights dimmed and everyone was gone, Noah stayed. He opened financial records, investor lists, coded transactions. One name kept appearing. A shell fund linked to Eli's former partners. Hidden in small percentages, just enough to stay invisible. He copied the data, closed his laptop, and stared at the Luvara logo glowing on the glass wall. Business lesson. In every partnership, one person tracks growth. The other tracks motive. The next morning, Amara greeted him like nothing was wrong. Her tone calm, her eyes bright. Eli stood beside her, hand resting casually on her chair. Noah smiled back. He'd learned to wear calm like armor. But deep down, the crack had already started. And it was widening. Halloween arrived dressed in elegance. Luvara's annual charity gala filled the city's tallest ballroom. Glass chandeliers, gold masks, and laughter that hid exhaustion. Cameras flashed. Every major publication was there to capture the calm revolution celebrating success. They called it, the night that proved business could have a soul. Amara smiled for the photos, graceful, unshaken. But behind her mask, her mind wouldn't rest. Eli was in his element. Flawless tuxedo, half mask of silver, every word magnetic. He worked the room like he owned it. Maybe he did. Noah lingered near the bar, mask slightly tilted, eyes tracing the patterns others missed. Every glance told a story. Every smile hid a truth. Midway through the evening, Amara stepped away for air. The ballroom felt too bright, too rehearsed. That's when she saw him. Eli, slipping through a side corridor, phone pressed to his ear, voice low. Not charm now. Command. She moved closer, unseen behind the wall of flowers. His words barely reached her. Fragments of numbers, shipment dates, encrypted codes. When he ended the call, he looked around once. Calm, practiced. Then walked back inside, mask perfectly in place. Business lesson. In leadership, image is everything. And the moment you start believing it, you've already lost sight of the truth. Amara stood frozen, the music echoing behind her, her pulse syncing with the bass of the ballroom. Something inside her whispered, "This night isn't celebration. It's warning." The night after the gala, the city was quiet, but Amara's mind wasn't. The image of Eli's secret call replayed in loops. Each word she couldn't hear felt louder than the music that covered it. At dawn, she returned to the office. The world still half asleep. Her laptop waiting like a test she didn't want to take. She searched system logs, message trails, private server pings, and then she saw it. Outgoing data. Encrypted transfers. All stamped with her own credentials. Her name. Her digital signature. Each file carrying proof of betrayal. But the direction was wrong. They weren't receiving. They were sending. Her hands froze. Every file led to the same address. One that matched Eli's private fund. Business lesson. The closer your ally is to the source, the harder it is to tell who's leaking and who's leading. By afternoon, Amara walked into Eli's apartment unannounced. No masks. No cameras. Just truth waiting. He looked surprised, but not afraid. She threw the printouts onto his table. What is this? Eli studied them for a moment, then reached for his phone. Before you decide, he said, look at this. The messages appeared, same files, same timestamps. But the sender's name wasn't his. It was hers. For a second, the air disappeared. She felt the room tilt, reality folding in on itself. How? Her voice broke. He didn't answer. Eli only said, someone's rewriting our story, and they're using your name to finish the ending. Amara stared at the screen, her reflection staring back. Somewhere in that moment, she realized she wasn't just losing control. She was part of the plan. The news broke before sunrise. One headline, then a dozen more. Luvara under investigation for data breach. The calm revolution faces storm of its own. By the time Amara reached the office, the lobby was a storm of cameras and flashing lights. Security tried to hold reporters back, but their questions pierced through the noise. Did you authorize the leaks? Was the data sold? She didn't answer. She couldn't. Upstairs, the boardroom lights burned harsh and cold. Executives talking over one another. Papers flying like leaves in wind. Noah stood by the window, pale, quiet, holding a thin folder. He didn't speak until the room finally stilled. He stepped forward. These are the audit logs, he said. Every transfer came from Amara's account. The words cut deeper than the headlines ever could. Every face turned toward her. She tried to explain. Tried to find the language that could bridge proof and truth. But even honesty sounded guilty in that room. And Eli. He wasn't there. His chair empty, his nameplate missing. His phone disconnected. Only a small envelope on her desk. Slipped under the door at dawn. Inside, one line written in his hand. Sometimes you must lose the calm to win the war. Business lesson. In business and in love, disappearing is also a strategy. The cameras outside grew louder. Inside, silence. Luvara's empire, her dream, was no longer hers. The day ended in sirens. What began as whispers in the boardroom had turned into a full-scale storm. Authorities filled Luvara's lobby. Badges, cameras, questions. Flashing lights spilled across glass walls like lightning. Amara stood still in the middle of it all. A calm she no longer believed in. Reporters shouted her name. Officers surrounded her with clipped voices, asking for devices, passwords, truth. And through the chaos came Noah. His face pale, shirt untucked, a small cut across his cheek. He held something in his hand, a Luvara keycard, edges red. He stepped close enough for only her to hear. I didn't want it to end this way, he whispered. Then the keycard slipped from his hand, landing between them. A drop of blood hitting the floor beside it. Business lesson. Every empire ends the same way. With someone trying to save what's already gone. Security rushed forward. Voices rising. Flashes blinding. Amara's wrists caught in firm hands. Her questions lost in the noise. The scene fractured. Sirens outside, elevator doors closing. A city watching its newest scandal unfold. Outside the headquarters, under the blur of police lights, Eli stood in the shadows, phone in his hand. A message on the screen. Phase 1 complete. He smiled faintly, deleted it, and disappeared into the crowd. A company in chaos. A partner vanished. A keycard stained with blood. But whose hands started the war, and who's still playing it? Was Noah the last honest man in Luvara, or the perfect distraction? And Eli, was he ever saving Amara, or only setting her up? The calm revolution has shattered, but calm was never the goal. This is only the beginning of the real game. If you're enjoying it, like, share, and subscribe. Because in part 3, Every truth will cost somebody everything.